What's up, gangsters? This is Jeroen, probably better known as the guy from Horrible Reviews on YouTube. And you guys are listening to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review podcast. And that's about all the catchphrases I have, so I say, let's go.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review podcast, powered by the Big Roll Up. I just want to thank all our fans and listeners for their support. We really appreciate it. And personally, I am super duper excited to have this guest on our show, our very first YouTuber, someone I've watched personally since at least 2014. A man with over 142,000 subscribers and 32 million views. My man, Horrible Reviews from YouTube. How's it going?
Thank you so much. I'm doing pretty good. It's funny you introducing me like that. The 32 million views you said. I would have no idea, but that's not bad, right?
No, that's real good. I bet you wish you had that in dollars, huh?
If only it would translate like that. But no, it's honestly an honor to be here. I mean, I know you guys have like some pretty great big like names from the horror community on your show, and I'm just a guy, I don't have the reach that those people have. So you guys like giving like some attention to the small guy. I really appreciate that. It's really cool.
I'm the small guy here, not you, my man.
Yeah, I know, but you've talked to like some celebrities, you could say.
Oh yes, sir. We usually start our interviews just asking, the actor or the actress what got him into acting. Well, instead, we'll ask you, when did you get into horror movies, and what's your first memory of horror?
Just like in not
in
general,
general,
just like cool. So I've had this question asked before, and I wouldn't know exactly what the first memory is, but there's this story that I always bring up because it's the one that I guess was the most impactful, if you will. It must have been back in, let's say, 97, 98. It was my parents, they rented Scream. Scream was just out on home video. The movie's from like 96, right? And they rented a movie for like date night, just like, like my parents for like movie night. And I was like 10, 11 at the time, and I was just about to like head up, like to go to sleep, in the evening, and but like up from like halfway up the stairs, like the movie was playing, and you've seen Scream, right? Probably. You know the opening scene, like it's like classic. It's so good. But me as like a little 10-year-old, like it absolutely like terrified me. Like I it was like one of those things that I wasn't supposed to see, and like I said, before that, I was never really that much into horror. Like, that movie just made such an impression on me. And honestly, but after that, it still took like maybe like 2 or 3 years. Like when I was in like my early teens with like my little friends, we would go to like to the video rental stores.
Mm-hmm.
And like just being impressed by all the like the horror covers. But it were like the 80s slashers and like the Friday the 13th, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequels, like stuff like that. I feel like that's more when I can't go really much more back than that, because that was really like, then I was like, okay, this is it was sort of like the forbidden fruit, like especially at the video rental store.
Oh, absolutely. I remember my first time watching Scream. I was 5 or 6 years old and on the couch with some friends, and my mom rented it, and we were terrified. You're most famously known from your very successful YouTube channel. What inspired you to become a YouTuber? Also, how'd you come up with the name Horrible Reviews? And I'd also like to know, on average, how long does it take to make one of your videos?
Oh shit! Okay, let me start at the beginning. The first one was like how.
What made you want to start it? What made you want to start your channel?
Okay, it's funny because it like you pose a question as like what inspired you, like what made you want to become like a YouTuber? And I'm never like a big fan of the term like YouTuber,
Yeah.
and I don't per se like, I mean, it's just like nitpicking, that I don't per se like consider myself a YouTuber. It's just like it's my choice of platform because it makes the most sense, like it's the easiest to put your videos out. And it was actually, so I started the channel in 2008, and let me think. I got into movies like more like the way I'm in, and now it was like around 2007. It was like during a class that I was following. It was like about like sort of like screenplay, this and that. And the teacher, he showed like a bunch of like cult movies. I was like, holy shit, like this is so much cooler than the stuff that plays in the theaters and the stuff that plays like in on the TV like at night. And from there, I don't know exactly how it happened, but I sort of like discovered all these like low budget like horror movies, like cold horror movies, like The Evil Deads and like stuff like that. And I got like super obsessed with it in the sense that besides just like watching them and enjoying them, I wanted to know like, oh, like who's the director, who's dead, and who's the actor, like, oh, like what was the budget? How did they pull off these effects and stuff like that? Um, but none of my friends cared for any of this, like so I found myself like having like this new fascination, and I was telling my friends like, dude, like for example, I was like, oh, Blood Feast is this movie from this director Herschel Gordon Lewis. It was like the first time that someone made like graphic like gore and stuff, and all my friends were like, yeah, like I don't know, those movies look shitty, like and at the time the study that I was doing was like a communication and multimedia design, and as part of that, I also did like some editing, and I started learning more about editing and then a little bit of like animation. So I was like, hey, like, what if this information that I'm like finding for myself, like all the stuff that I find interesting, why not just put it like in a video? Like YouTube was still relatively, because it was like 2008, like it was around obviously, but it was not nowhere near as big as it is now. But it's like, I can just make the videos. I know how to edit. I know how to like record everything. Just make a video, put it online, and I can send it to my friends or like my friends or whoever, like my family, this and that. They can decide for themselves whether or not they want to watch it, so they don't have to tell me like in my face like shut up. So that's just how it started, basically as sort of like an outlet for myself because I found this new interest, if you will, and it was just the perfect platform and way of communicating sort of like what I wanted to share with the world, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. The second part of that question was,
Oh,
how'd
yeah.
you come up with the name Horrible Reviews?
So for the first few years, because I'm pretty sure that when I made the account, like you had to like give up like a URL, so it would be like a youtube.com/. Back then it was like LB Horror Review. With the LB, it stood for low budget, because my initial plan was just to basically talk about like yeah, obviously like low budget horror movies. Like the first movie I did was like Blood Feast, and one of the earliest later like the Friday 13 and like Reanimated, like those type of like cult-ish horror movies. But the name kind of sucked because I also wrote it as like lowercase LB, then capital H horror and a capital R review, and people were like IB, like IB horror review, like people couldn't read it. And I think at some point you could just like change your name, and like even because now it's like it's always still the same account. But horrible reviews, it's a good question because I have to dig deep like where it comes from. I think it was just that I found it funny. It obviously like it was horror related, so like horror reviews that was sort of already in it. Maybe it was sort of like low key, like making fun of myself a little bit in the sense that like, hey, I'm no film critic, like I just love these movies. I say what I want, like what I think, like sure, like there's a little bit of information, but mostly it's just like about having fun. I was like, like horrible reviews, sort of like they're like horrible movies, horrible this, and I think I was just like horrible reviews, and I don't know, I felt like it kind of has a ring to it.
Yeah.
Especially like all these years later now, like it's, yeah, like it's something like recognizable, if you will. So I'm kind of glad I did it, but I'm not quite sure. I think it was just like a funny pun, if you will, like horrible movies, horrible reviews, like, yeah, why not?
Yeah, it is catchy. I agree with that. And how long does it usually take you to make a video?
Oh,
I guess
dude,
that
way too
depends
long.
on the length of them, but
Yeah, and I also like I work myself like in a corner with it because, I mean, you're familiar with the channel. Most of the videos I do there, they usually have like a theme to it, be it like movies from like a certain director, or like obviously like the disturbing movies. Like I guess that's like a theme too. It's like a series, or the video nasties. But it's always a series or a theme where there's more movies to cover. Like I started out always doing just like one movie per like video, right? Like so obviously those were way quicker to produce. But if you take, for example, like because recently I've just been like pumping out these disturbing movies videos. It's usually like 5 movies in one video that I cover, right? Um, and the thing that probably takes up, well, maybe takes up the most work is actually watching the movies, which, I mean, you could argue like, oh, I don't know, that's like part of making a video, but like, because it's just watching a movie, like everybody likes watching movies, but I do definitely consider it as work because you've seen the Disturbing movie series, and there's movies that I really had to like force myself to sit down and watch. And then and I'm like sitting with my phone, like taking notes, because while watching the movie, that's basically when I try to like write the basis for the review. Um, just taking notes, like pausing movie, like, oh, like this is something what like something funny, like I could like bring up this and that. So like even if it's like a 90-minute movie, I can easily take me like 2 hours, 2.5 hours to just like watch the movie, and then that times 5, and
Oh,
that's then
absolutely.
I've just like watched the movies, and like writing the script comes afterwards, which sometimes it's honestly like if I have like good notes, like the script is basically written, like I just copy like the note from my phone like to my computer, and I'm like, oh, like there's like enough like jokes and like plot outlines, and like it's basically there to review. So the writing, like it's kind of okay. But then like I have to record the voiceover, I have to record like the video, like meet myself on the couch with the beers and all of that. Um, that can take some time, and then the actual editing itself, which is my format is usually like I introduce like stuff in between, but when I talk about the movie, it's just clips from the movies I talk about, right? Um, so I just like import like um, the whole movie like in my editing software, and then if I talk, like I have to go through the whole movie, like see like what I'm talking about, like cut the clip, like put it in like in sequences and that. I mean, like, and then afterwards, like the visuals and this and that, like I make it way too complicated for myself as well. Like, people ask me like, dude, like when's the new video coming? I'm like, yeah, I'm starting working on it, but it's so much time. And way back, I made a video where I sort of like walked through the process of making like a standard horrible reviews video, and there I came to the conclusion that it can easily take up to like 25 hours for just one video. And I was thinking about that because, you could say like, oh, 25 hours, but it's like 3 days, like if you have an 8-hour day. But the catch is that I have to do all of it in my free time because, I just work full time. Um, so then 25 hours in your free time, plus you can't always force yourself to watch like a Slaughtered Vomit Dolls part 3 or 4, like those shitty type of movies. You kind of have to be in the mood for it.
Oh yeah.
Um, it's and sometimes you just want to relax. You want to hang out with your friends, with your girlfriend. You just want to watch a movie that you actually want to see and not being forced to take notes. So yeah, like just like a video, like purely in like hours, like yeah, it could easily be between like 20 and 30 hours. But of like that's what I would consider like actually like working on it.
Whew, yeah. I've
Yeah.
watched several fellow YouTube content creators say content creation is a job in itself, honestly, if you pump out videos weekly, so it's a lot of work.
Yeah, oh yeah, and I have respect for people that do that because even yeah, like I'd say that the editing part probably takes up the most, what I would really consider work. And sometimes it's just like I love doing these videos, and I usually keep in mind like the feeling that I get when a video is done and I upload it, and and people start reacting to it, because that's like a huge motivation. Um, but sometimes I'm just like, oh, like editing, like, oh, it's so much fucking work.
Yeah.
Because it is what it is. It is work, especially if you keep like a tight schedule for yourself. Like, oh, I have to upload like every Wednesday, or like one, or like every 2 weeks or so. It's work.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's jump into your channel a little bit. I
Okay.
would say what brought you your YouTube success or fame, whatever you like to call it, is your most disturbing films ever made series. Talk to us about disturbing horror and what made you want to start reviewing these type of films.
Okay, good one. It's it's definitely the series, if you will, that brought, like, well, at least that got the channel as big as it is now. And I don't know the exact numbers of like when it actually started growing. I know that I started the Disturbing movie series in 2012, and I think it was actually also the first video that I did where I was really like sort of like covering more than one movie. Like I said before that, it was usually just like one movie per video. I remember before that I did do a video on Alejandro Jodorowsky, the movies but there was only like 4 movies and it was like separated over 2 videos. But so the disturbing movies video one. Let me think. I remember that there were titles that I had already seen, like the Cannibal Holocaust, like A Spit on Your Grave, Last House on the Left. Like I'd seen those titles already, and I guess like in general, I've always been like attracted to the like I don't know, like the pushing the boundaries in general in art in general, not just film. And but you can be pushing the boundaries in whatever way, like be it like the biggest painting or like the longest movie or like like the most expensive this or that. Like I always find it like interesting to see like to what extremes an art form can take itself. I guess mostly because otherwise you're just sort of like stuck with like cookie cutter stuff, and I get bored with that more quickly. And I guess within film, one of the extremes that I looked up is just like like how far can you push what is generally accepted when it comes to like on-screen violence or just like scenarios that involve like just like taboo subject matters and whatnot. And I remember at the time at that time roommate, his at that time girlfriend, she was also like so this is way, but like it's 10 years ago. She was she just found like online like some list of like the most disturbing movies, this and that, and she told me like because she knew that I was sort of like into that. And then I think she was like, I keep reading about this a Serbian film, have you seen it? And I had not seen that one at the time, but I saw like other titles on the list, like I said, like A Cannibal Holocaust and like Last House on the Left. I was like, that's actually kind of interesting to do a video about these type of movies. Like it's just an idea for a video. So I with the girlfriend of my roommate at the time, we also sort of did like, let's see like who can keep up like with watching these movies, and I think she drew the line at like a Serbian film and stuff like that. But I watched a bunch of the stuff, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll make a video. And it was initially, which is super funny, obviously, that we're here 10 years later now talking about this, but it was initially intended to be like a 2-part video, which was called like 10 of the most disturbing movies ever made. So just like 5 in part 1, 5 in part 2. Yeah. And that's what I did. Didn't think much of it at the time. I felt like it was a cool, interesting concept for a video. I do remember that afterwards, I guess because like some of the movies that I discovered because of the list, reading it more into like other lists, I was like, oh shit, I do kind of have to do a part 3 because I forgot titles like I think like a Serbian film wasn't in the first 2, and like the Human Centipede and stuff like that. So like, okay, I'll have to do a third one. Like it wasn't the plan, but otherwise people are gonna be like, oh, you haven't mentioned this and this and this. And I think that was honestly it at the time. But like you said, even though it went gradually, it was that series that helped bring in like a bigger audience. And I don't know, I guess it was intriguing for the audience. Obviously, otherwise they wouldn't have come to this. It's just like I say, like maybe what I have with like being interested in like things taken to the extreme. People have that as well, They found these videos, and it's got a lot of comments from people saying like, oh, but how about this one? How about that one? And like recommending more titles. So I was like, oh, it looks like people enjoy these shows or like this series. Well, what else can I do than to, like give the people what they want, I guess. And back then it was probably like a couple of hundred subscribers still, like it was still really small. But that's when I did a part 4, and it was like in part 4, it's probably like, hey, people in the comments said so like this and that title. So yeah, I'm back, and I'm back to take a look at more. And from there, I think like 3 or 4 times I've said like, this is the last one. I think I did it after part 10. I think I did it after part 15. and now I could just throw it in at the end of a video and say like, this is the last one, and people be like, yeah, right,
Yeah, I remember in one of your intros to me like, it won't end.
yeah, there's no end to it. Yeah, exactly. That is how it feels sometimes, because even after having covered most of the essentials by now, Plus, they're making new movies. Plus, there's always like some underground shit that I haven't heard about, and it's like, oh shit, like why haven't I covered this before? You know, like there's just so much. Like it's there's tons of movies to be covered in the series.
Oh yeah, for sure. We live in a really fucked up world right now. After watching all these disturbing films, has it desensitized you to violence in mainstream movies or even in the real life news stories?
That's a good one. First part, like when it comes to movies, absolutely, because I've noticed that when I talk to other people, that sometimes I forget like, and so this whole answer, like keep in mind that I do not try to come off as like, oh, like so full of myself, like I'm the expert and other people's are not, because um, I do not want to come across as that. But I do notice sometimes, especially with like friends, that I'm just like on another level when it comes to like, oh, what I've seen when it comes to like violence and like crazy shit in movies. And um, sometimes I forget that um, what I would consider like tame, that can be like pretty out there for an audience that's just not familiar, that hasn't put themselves through like so much torture. And so when it comes to movies, I would definitely say that I'm like sort of like desensitized to like violence and like crazy shit, and which sometimes even makes it difficult to still be doing like these reviews of like disturbing movies, because sometimes I'm like, I know, yeah, oh, it's this and so movie. It's pretty crazy. You have some rape, you have some torture, you have some this, and I just like I'm super casual about it, even though
Yeah.
it's like, no, that's fucked up, you know, like what's happening to this and that, like it's super. But I'm like, oh shit, you know, like I have to like keep a little grounded, if you will. Again, I don't want to like sound like thinking all that of myself, but you know what I mean, right? It's just you're my standard or my threshold for what is considered disturbing is just like much higher than it was when I started the series.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
like you said, like compared to like real life stuff, it's like, oh no, man, like I try to keep away from like that type of stuff, like all the horrible stuff that's going on in the world, like sure, like just like if it's like news wise, like oh riots here, this and that, and violence in like those countries, like sure, like I'm not trying to close my eyes to what's going on in the world, but I'm not gonna look up like those execution videos or those like those real life gore videos, like those bestgore.com stuff, or like oh Grish, what you had back in the days, and rotten.com. I know like you probably know that stuff. um, I've always hated that, and I can't stand it. Like I've seen, because it was like such an infamous one at the time, the what was it, the three guys one hammer, or like the two guys, or no, is it the one?
Yep. I was going to bring
Like
that
the
up. Three guys, one hammer. I watched like
yeah,
10 seconds of it and turned it off.
yeah, exactly. And let's say that I've seen like maybe like 10 or 15 seconds, and I can't get it out of my mind, even after having seen like, when was it, like 10 years ago, or like maybe even like longer ago, and it was a thing. And I'm like, no, I just I get nothing out of that. You know, I
Yeah.
love watching disturbing movies from the comfort of my couch, knowing that I can um, put myself to like watching like some messed up stuff, but at the end of the day, it's all fine. You know, like no one got hurt. They made a movie, so like they put some artistry in it. Cool, you know, like you don't always have to watch a movie to feel great. Like I don't. Sometimes you want to watch a movie and you just have like whatever feeling brought out. You know, it can be like sort of like depressed or impressed or like taken back. Um, that's cool, but at the end of the day, I appreciate its artistry. You know, and with those clips, there's none to it. It's just like the most fucked up shit you can imagine, and I I don't get anything out of that. Like that's like, and so I'm still as scared, if you will, of that as I was ever before. Like I started watching these horror type movies.
Yeah. Like we brought up like mainstream. Like we reviewed. Like, have you seen the movie Terrifier?
Is it the clown one?
Yeah, the clown. Well, we reviewed Terrifier, and we just did Bone Tomahawk a couple weeks
Oh
ago.
yeah, exactly. What's your latest one, right? Uh huh.
We've got both of those movies have like the scenes where like they cut the person in half or whatever. But
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and a lot of my co-hosts and myself included thought that's really graphic, but heck, that's just one thing in a really really disturbing movie. Like that doesn't even come close to a lot of the stuff that you've reviewed and watched.
That is true. Although I have to definitely give what's his name, like Craig Zeller, the director who did Bone Tomahawk, or I don't know his name exactly,
Yeah,
like
I think it's
but
Craig Zoller or something like that. Yeah.
right. And he's put out like, because I think that was his first like feature length like big movie, and I haven't seen the rest, but I was quite impressed by Bone Tomahawk, and I think that the gore and like the over the top violence works so well because the build up to it, right? Like at some point it's just, and it's been a while since I've seen it, but I think you brought it up or someone brought it up in a podcast as well, that what some people would consider like the sort of like boring part, because at some point it's just like these three guys just like traveling and stuff. But there's like tension between them, and like it's really good. So you're just watching like a good movie, and then when they come at the place and they find the people and you get to the violence, it is like boom in your face, like. And so they use it like sparsely, like the violence, but it's so effective.
Oh yeah,
And then
absolutely.
and Terrifier is just, I did like the one, but it's so ridiculously over the top, man. It's like the gore is ridiculous, but it's I did like that one. But it's almost crossing the line where it could have been like a sort of like a fun sort of like slasher, tongue-in-cheek slasher. But some of the violence, it just goes like, oh shit, like I don't know if they're crossing like a line here or not.
Oh yeah. Um, all right. What would you consider some of the most disturbing films that shook you the most, and what are a few you'd recommend to mainstream watchers just to give it a chance?
Okay. Recently, I think it was just like through like maybe like Facebook or Instagram. I was just talking to a person that watches the show, and he asked more or less the same question, like, what do you think was the most disturbing one? And I think it was in relation to, at some point I did like after so many videos, I did a top 65, like, because at that point I had like seen like I covered like 65, and I put them like in a ranking. So what I thought was the best, and that one had on number one. It had Martyrs, the French movie. Um,
I want to
and
watch that one.
oh, dude, and that one is like, I wouldn't like, for you, sure, I would say like definitely check it out. For someone that, but look, I'll come to that question later, because it's not a movie that I would be like, oh, someone that wants to tip their toes into like, or the more extreme stuff. I wouldn't start with Martyrs because it is pretty out there. Um, but the reason why I ranked it that high in that video, and why I still consider it one of my favorite disturbing movies, is because, sort of like what we were talking about with Bone Tomahawk, it's an actual good movie. And I feel like the extreme stuff hits so much harder when there's like some substance to it. I've subjected myself to so much like shit as well with this series, and you can bring up like stuff like the August Underground movies, or the Slaughtered Vomit Dolls, like the Vomit Gore movies, which is just like an onslaught of like rape and rape and gore and violence, and so much torture and shit. But at some point, there's also like a torture fatigue or something. I don't know if that's like an actual thing, but it's just like, ah, yeah, another woman's getting raped. Like, yeah, like, and it's weird to be thinking like that. Um, but those movies that some could consider like, oh, they're like the creme de la creme of like disturbing stuff, because all this stuff is happening. I'm like, yeah, sure, but it doesn't grab me as much as a movie that's well made, that has like a fascinating, interesting story to tell. Plus, then on top of all of that, like on top of that, like quality filmmaking, there's like some boundary pushing stuff. And one of my, which I've always had a little trouble like being honest about, but now I always just like fuck it, is that Cannibal Holocaust is one of my favorite disturbing movies. And that's, I'm saying that like why I was like hesitant about it, obviously because it's controversial because of its animal cruelty mostly. And there's no way I'll be able to like justify it, or that I would even try and go there and like and justify it. But I usually see it like, when I talk about Cannibal Holocaust, I see it as like, it happened. The movie's like 40 years old. Anything we do now, like whether we watch it or not, it's not going to change anything about like what happened, there on set. It's been documented so much, like it's something that happened 40 years ago. It's not happening now anymore. Like, you can't get away with it anymore. But the movie, it's such a product of its time, and it's something that's never going to be replicated. And I don't know if it was in this question or a previous question, but for my first time seeing Cannibal Holocaust, that was like a stomach turning like event for me. You know, that was like holy shit. Like, what is this? You know. Plus, I mean, it is basically just a like an Italian, like an 80s Italian like exploitation flick, but for some reason I think it's a well made, it's a pretty well made movie, you know, and that movie like shook me more than any of those like Vomit Gore sequels or August Undergrounds or like all those weird like 90s Japanese shot on video torture porn type of shit, you know, like um so yeah, like I said, like even if I did say this too, like Martyrs and Cannibal Holocaust, like they're definitely like some of my favorite disturbing movies, like off the top of my head. But it's not what I would I mean, I know we talked about it before, right? And I said like those are some titles. Those are I would recommend you watching those. But to someone tipping their toes into like the more disturbing side of cinema, like I would maybe even just even though they're like quite mainstream, is stuff like Hostel or like Saw or like the Rob Zombie movies, you know, like which again, like I said, like when we're talking about like being desensitized, now I just consider them as just like general like horror flicks. But those like even though and we both know that you and I aren't big Rob Zombie fans, um, but they're relatively extreme. I mean,
Yeah.
they go the Devil's Rejects, The House of a Thousand Corpses. They go further than where your normal horror movie would go, and I know that like Hostel and Saw, mostly Saw, I guess, because of the sequels, that they kind of have like a bad rap, and they're like responsible for the whole like torture porn movement of the like the 2000s and stuff. But I don't think they're bad movies, and I think they're like because they're especially I mean the first Saw was obviously like quite low budget, but the sequels do they have like they're like quite polished movies, you know, like so it's I feel like it's better to tip your toes into the more extreme stuff with movies like that rather than like those crazy like underground flicks which are just like so rough around the edges that you're gonna be like oh man like you have to work your way towards that. I feel if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love the Saw franchise. Personally, it's my favorite one. Uh,
Okay, cool, yeah. Mm-hmm.
but I've watched a few movies just because I've watched your videos. High Tension, both the
Oh,
Human
nice.
Centipede films. Um, I can't remember the name of the movie. It's got Patrick Wilson in it with a young girl.
A Hard Candy.
Yeah, I've seen that one. That was pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah, oh yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
thanks to your
Yeah, exactly.
channel.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't watched. I tried to watch like Serbian film, but it was like on YouTube, so it was like in clips. I couldn't. I
Okay.
don't think
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't think I could watch it personally.
it's it's an interesting one because it often tops like tops so many lists and stuff because it's sort of like at some point I guess it was like considered like the holy grail of disturbing cinema, you know. um I don't mind that. I think I might have seen it like twice now. It is pretty well polished. Like it's a pretty well made movie, you know. Like it's nicely shot. Like set design. It looks like a movie, you know. But it just
Yeah.
like goes so far. But I think what also damaged its reputation a little bit is I don't know if I'm just like thinking off the top of my head now, but the filmmakers also came out by like saying that it's like a critique on like the social situation in like Serbia and or like this and like the film industry and blah 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 blah. And I think people tend to see it as like a little pretentious because it's just like it's a fucking movie where a guy's like banging this chick from behind and with a machete like chopping, you know, like it's just pure fucking exploitation, you know. And it's like don't try to feed us some like social commentary, you know, like just say what it is. It's a movie where they fucking newborn babies and like rape like it's that type of movie, you know. It honestly does go all the way. Like it has some of the most fucked up shit. um but I don't know, like it's difficult with that one because I'll say like yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's obviously super extreme, but I also feel like there might be people out there that would say like because it's kind of like maybe like cool to be like oh it's not that bad, you know, like it's not that great because honestly like it is some of the most extreme stuff you can put to film. Maybe sort of like as a defense mechanism that people would be like oh no it's not that bad or something, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it's um, I would put it in the category of like essentials. So like if you want to get yourself into like extreme, like disturbing movies, you're gonna get to, like, if you really dedicate yourself to like, oh, I want to explore this genre, you're gonna get to like a Serbian film. Like it's part of the whole like discourse around like disturbing movies, you know.
Yeah, one
The same
that
way like how you the same way how you ended up watching like the Human Centipedes, for example. You know, like
yeah
it's
the first one was
they're
nothing.
just no, and that's the thing. And so um, the director, he's Dutch. He's from the Netherlands, where I'm from, and he's like an interesting guy, and he's definitely not dumb. I think he's a very intelligent guy, and with the Human Centipede, the original one, I feel like he just had like such a messed up idea. Like that's I think the concept of the Human Centipede. It's fucked up, you know. Like it's so gruesome. But the movie itself, that's what I always say about the Human Centipede, the first one. The movie itself, it never gets worse than the idea that it's like the plot outline. It's like people attach like mouth to anus, like, oh, that's super fucked up. The movie is pretty, I wouldn't say like generic, but it's not like that super graphic. It's not a Human Centipede 2, if you've
Yeah,
seen that one as well.
yeah, I did.
Like, yeah, sometimes I feel like that's what the certain. So I feel like when the first one came out, the way people described it is what a Serbian, what a Human Centipede 2 is, you know, because part 2 is ridiculously violent and over the top. The first one is really not that bad, I feel. I haven't seen it in a while, but
It could be like a Hollywood movie to me, like the
yeah,
first one.
like just. Yeah, I mean, like with stuff coming out now, like with Ari Aster, the Hereditary, and like Midsummer. Those movies they have like some crazy violence in it. Well, you know, those are hugely popular. Um, like people don't mind like a little extreme horror, but yeah, I don't know. Like yeah, then again, you know, like the Human Centipede, it's almost so goofy the idea that I don't know. Like
Yeah.
it's just the reputation it has. But the thing, I don't want to go off topic, but the director now he has a new movie out and he can't find distribution for it, and I think he just has it in the can waiting for someone to release it, and he's like super frustrated about it. He's like, dude, I'm I'm the guy that did the Human Centipede. Like people love this stuff. Like I don't know, was it like Lionsgate or whoever like distributed some of his movies in the US, and then it was like a big hit for them, and now everybody is too scared to touch his new movie, and he's like, dude, it's just a pretty great movie. Like the screenings we've had, people loved it, and he just can't get it released. It's so messed up.
Well, I guess that's part of the repercussions of mouth to anus as your pitch in your first movie.
I guess so. So not like yeah, like filmmaking 101. Don't make your first movie about the mouth to anus stuff.
All right, the last thing about your most disturbing series, and you can touch on this with other series as well. You watch a lot of your disturbing films through fan comments on your videos, which I respect. Like you mentioned earlier, the fans are what make content creation super special. Can you talk about fan interaction and suggestion when it comes to your YouTube video creations?
Yeah, of course. Let me think. Yeah, because I sort of like brought it up during some early questions already. That yes, for example, the disturbing movie series. It would. Let's make it like even more general. I probably wouldn't have been doing this channel altogether anymore if it wasn't for the interaction that I get with like from people watching it. Like I said, when we were talking about like making videos, how much time it costs and stuff. Like sometimes I'm like, ugh, like and I don't want to like put myself through like making all the videos. The biggest motivation for me is knowing that the end product is going to be appreciated, you know. Um, and the comments I get and the people are like, oh, this is cool, and they're talking about the movie and they're discussing the stuff and they're like, oh shit. Like one of my favorite things about doing the videos, the channel, is helping people discover movies that they maybe weren't familiar with before, you know.
Yep.
Because that's why I follow other people. That's why I'm on Letterboxd all the time, following people and like seeing like all these movies. Like holy shit, what is it? I've never heard of this. It looks so fucking cool. And so yeah, the interaction is very important to me, even if I'm slacking lately a lot with like replying to like comments and messages and because that onto itself can become like a full-time job, like the
Oh yeah.
interaction. But um, yeah, for sure. Um, a lot of also just like series in general. I get the comments like, oh, like, what happened to the video nasties, the Section 3 video nasty series? I used to love that, and then like, oh yeah, that's like good motivation for me to like pick up that series again. And even though I haven't done it in a while, but it's like, yeah, the viewers constantly give me ideas for what to talk about, like be it like a type of series, like a specific filmmaker, a specific like movies. Um, yeah, that's the thing what I love about the whole, like it's like a two-way conversation, you know. It's not like broadcasting from TV, and I read all the comments, I read all the messages, you know, like, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's kind of like I feel like I'm in a luxurious position with like having all that like um you know, like suggestions and whatnot like coming to me. And sometimes people tell me like, how do you find all these fucking movies? I'm like, yeah, because people tell me and stuff, you know. Like obviously I do my own research, but sometimes it's just like this one person can be like, hey, have you heard of this? I'm like, no, but that looks really cool, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's talk about another one of your series that I really like. They're the film of series. It ranges from the mainstream, such as Stephen King's films or Rob Zombie, all the way to the John Waters, David Lynch, Takashi Miike. Did you enjoy making those style videos, and what inspired you to take on the films of these writers and directors? I really liked it because you went a little more in depth with the movies
Yeah.
instead, and because you already reviewed some of them in your most disturbing, but you went a little more in depth. So I really like that series.
Um. Yeah, oh yeah, it's probably one of my more like my favorite type of videos to do. Um, because sometimes they're the filmmakers that I pick are usually filmmakers that I have like on the back burner of like working my way through their filmography, you know. And like I say, like sometimes I have to force myself to sit through like movies because I want to make videos about them. And like I said, like I know the disturbing movie series, for example, like I know that it does well with the audience, you know, like it relatively get more views than other videos. But sometimes I just want to watch stuff and talk about stuff that I'm like maybe like more passionate about. So for example, the John Waters one that you brought up, I've seen like Pink Flamingos, because Pink Flamingos I think was also part of the disturbing movies one. I've seen like multiple maniacs, and I was like, I love this guy. I love his you know, like his whole, how do you say, way of thinking when it comes to filmmaking. And I'm gonna check out more of his, like especially his early stuff, because I think the one that I did John Waters was like the early films of John Waters, right? And I was like, but it also kind of fits in with what I do here on Horrible Reviews. Why not just work my way through these films? Um, and then I also have content for the channel. And and I have like this whole list of potential filmmakers that I want to like make videos on, like the films of so and so and so, because it will help me to actually like sit through all of these movies, and it's sort of like a win-win situation. I get to see like movies that I'm like excited about to see, plus I can create like great content. So because of that, it's like one of my favorite series for sure. The videos that I did about Larry Clark, I did one of the films of Larry Clark. I did one of the films of like Harmony Korine. Those were also movies that like were like personally like so like important to me, with like me discovering those movies when I was of a certain age, and they sort of like helped me, not to sound pretentious or so, but you know, like discovering those movies when you were a certain age, I hold them dear for whatever reason, you know. And then like for me to talk about those movies, and those filmmakers, it's I don't know, I feel like I put a little more of my own into it than when we're doing Disturbing Movies Part 29 or so, you know. It's Yeah, I think that's where the idea for those series comes from as well. Just for me being able to watch movies that I actually want to watch and then talk about them. And I do pick filmmakers that I feel like, oh, that fits with the channel a little bit, you know?
Oh yes, sir. Goomo is actually a movie I want to watch, but a lot of the movies that I want to watch from your series, I can't find them anywhere. Like Amazon doesn't have them, or
Okay, yeah,
Vudu.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
not
yeah.
easy to find unless you do some.
Oh no! I agree. And Gummo's great, and and I've seen that movie quite a few times over the years. Now it's been a while since I last seen it, but it honestly took me like 3 or 4 views. I think I've seen it maybe like 4 or 5 times, and I think like well, the first time obviously I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but like the second and third and fourth rewatch, I was like, I'm not quite sure, and now I'm like, yeah, no, I kind of love that movie. Like I think it's really good. Um, but it's if you at some point find yourself the possibility check it out, you're probably gonna need like 2 watches or so at least to form like a definitive opinion on it. It's a weird one. It's very like it's just a bunch of vignettes, and even just every little piece by itself is like, yeah, what do I do with this? Like I can't do anything with this. And then at some point, I guess for me, it just landed like, okay, I guess that's just exactly what he was trying to do. It's just like a slice of life, but then a very particular weird slice of life.
Yeah, that visual of that kid sitting in that dirty ass bathtub. I don't know why, but it just sticks with
Yeah,
me.
it's I would say it's very iconic. Like I mean, it's no psycho shower scene or anything, but it's like it's so visceral. Like a little while back, with something with work related, like I did a little presentation, like just like showing like some random visuals, isn't it? And I picked that one as well, the tub scene with the little kid, and people just instantly have a reaction to it because it's just
Hmm.
so like it's sort of like nasty, but it's also just like, hey, it's also like maybe you have like associations with like poverty or whatever, or like this and that, and um, yeah, the movie is full of like striking imagery, I would say.
I think there's like level to me. Just I mean, I've never seen it, but just from the picture, there's levels of nastiness to me. Like the water looks disgusting. The actual
Yeah, it's
bath,
like
the actual bathroom looks disgusting. The food he's eating looks disgusting.
yeah,
The
and if
combination
you
of the food he's eating, it looks disgusting.
yeah, because he has like a plate of like spaghetti, but then he also has like a chocolate bar, but there's also like soap on his hands, and he's like opening the chocolate bar, and it's all like melting, and but he's also eating the spaghetti. It's yeah, it's like nauseating. And the
Yeah,
kid does such a great job at like playing it straight. For him, it was maybe just like like oh nice free spaghetti and a chocolate bar.
yeah. Another series that I hope you continue with is your original versus remake series. I feel like personally, there's a lot of meat on the bone and hot takes for that series. On our podcast, our most recent episode was the Friday the 13th reboot. Do you like all the remakes, or do you think it's just Hollywood's running out of ideas?
Okay, so there's like a few questions in there. I think the reason I think I only did like 2 episodes. I did Let the Right One In, like the original Swedish versus the remake, and The Hills of Ice. But then again, like for example, if you take The Hills of Ice, you can argue that the original Wes Craven, like oh, it's a classic like 70s like grindhouse movie, isn't that? Like sure, but it's not that great. The remake of The
I
Hills of
like I like
Ice,
the remake. I like the remake a lot.
dude,
I like
it's
I like both.
badass.
I like both of them. The sequel too. I like the
Yeah.
sequel too.
Mhm. Oh, that one I haven't seen actually. The sequel of the remake, then I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've not seen that one. But that's so that's one of the well, yeah, one of the 2 videos that I did in that series. That's interesting. Nobody really ever talks about that one, so it's cool to hear that you like that one. Um, I picked The Hills of Ice because that was an interesting like original versus remake for me because yeah, the original is definitely a product of its time. It's I don't know. I feel like it would have been more forgotten if it wasn't Wes Craven who made it, because obviously he made it back afterwards. But yeah, it's still like a cool like 70s like grimy sort of like type like horror exploitation type movie. But I also like that that's Alexander Ayas that did the remake, right? And I think he understood the source material very well, and it's just like a gruesome movie to kind of like have fun with. Um, and he just put it in like because it's from I think it's like 2006 or no, it must be or is it new? I don't
Yeah,
know. But it's
yeah,
from
it's 0506, something like that.
yeah, but so that was sort of like in the torture porn era, if you will, and he just made it like a bloody, gory, like but like a fun one. And but that's specifically that one. Yeah, no, it's a very popular way of thinking within the horror community that I've noticed to just write off remakes altogether before you even give them a chance. And I really like that attitude. I think that's sort of like elitist, like, oh, like the original's better. It's like almost a cliche. Um, I'm willing to give remakes a chance. I mean, I've watched the Martyrs remake. Like I told you, like the Martyrs, I think it's a fantastic movie, and the fact that there was a remake, it was so ridiculous. Like the movie wasn't even a decade old, I think. And like, why? Like Americans are that stupid. Like they can read subtitles every once in a while. But I was like, no, no, no. Let me watch the remake. I sure it wasn't that great. Same thing happened with Old Boy. Old Boy is one of my favorite movie. Like the original South Korean movie. It's a masterpiece. And then they make like a sort of like dumbed down American version, and then you still have like Spike Lee on board. Like you have a famous good director. It's more that I think it's sort of like, I don't know if it's like running out of ideas. I think it's definitely always like a safe sort of like cash grab, if you will, because it's like, oh, it's like a proven formula. So if you just do it again and make it more relatable to like an American audience, because like often they do like, it's either like, or they're like foreign films, or they're like outdated like old films. So like it's safe property.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather see all that budget and talent if they have like talented actors and writers and directors working on it. I'd rather have them spend their time and resources on like new stuff, but I'm not gonna write off a movie just because it is a remake. I remember the Friday the 13th one. I've seen it in theaters when it came out, but not since. I think that one was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I remember you're like 15 or 20 minutes in or so when the title screen comes up, because it's sort of like a short film before the title sequence even starts, or like the title comes on screen. But then, like when I first started getting into movies, or like these type of movies, like let's say like 10, 15 years or so, I was more of that elitist mind state, and I remember like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake being announced, and I was like, fuck that, like I just refused to watch it, and
It
I
was
think
terrible.
I finally watched it like, yeah, exactly. So because like last year or so, I finally decided to watch it, completely open minded. But I was like, no, it's not good. Freddy Krueger is weird. Like he seems like sick or whatever it was, and I just, it didn't work for me. I was like trying to be super optimistic. Oh, they throw in like some different like this and that, but then they have like just like these weird homages, if you will, like the famous in the original, like the bathtub scene with the art and hand that comes out. And I think they did it as well, but it's like, yeah, like what is it? It's like you're referencing it, but you're not doing anything with it. The original did it more like exciting either way than what you're not bringing anything new to the table. Yeah, that was an example of something that was like, nah, I don't know
Yeah.
who's this for. The original for Nightmare on Elm Street is still great. It's still fun.
And it's so hard to replace Robert Englund as Freddy too. It was just you're taking on. He's not just a quiet slasher. He's got personality. It's just you
Oh,
got.
100%. He's like, most of the sequels were built around him. Like he became the star, and I was also like, again, I was like, oh, I'll try not to be judgmental. I'll see how this new guy, I don't know who it is. Like let's see how he does, how he plays Freddy. But it's like, no, I don't like this Freddy. Not because obviously I prefer like Robert Englund as him, but it was just not an interesting character.
Yeah, I agree 100%. All right, I'm gonna ask you something that might have been a little bit emotional to you now. So get you a Kleenex, maybe. You might tap into some
Oh,
feelings. December the
oh,
11th,
oh, pretty fun.
2019. I remember seeing your Facebook post about your channel being deleted. That had to be devastating to you. I know you uploaded all of your videos to Vimeo, but Vimeo just doesn't have the same power as YouTube. Not to me, anyways. Then on April
Mhm.
10th, 2020, you posted on Facebook that your channel was back. Can you talk to me and the audience about the roller coaster of emotions that had to come along with these events?
Sorry, I had to grab a tissue really quick. Now I got another drink because I'm enjoying my time hanging out with you, Nico. I'm having a lot of fun. Um, it's it's funny because like I don't even know if you were being sarcastic with like if it's like emotional and that, but as you can probably imagine, when it happened, I don't know how to describe it. It did really feel like fuck.
Yeah.
Like if I lost something, and I kind of remember exactly how it went because I came home from work. Mm, I think I was just like having dinner, and sometimes during dinner I just watch like some YouTube stuff, and so I opened like my browser, I went on YouTube, and it asked me like to log in. I'm like, oh, that's weird, like I don't remember like logging out. And I tried logging in, and I kept getting like errors, and I was like, wait a second. So I went to like my email inbox, and I had an email from YouTube saying something like, hey, yeah, we've terminated your account. And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding, like, can't be true, right? Um, and it even went as far as that night. I think like I told like one or like two of my friends, and they came over. They just brought like a 6-pack of beer. Like come on, guy, you'll get through it. Like, let's hang out for a little bit. But yeah, let me think because I don't know the exact order of events anymore. But you have when this happens to you, you have an option to appeal the decision that they've made. So I wrote this whole fucking document about like because they also oh man, yeah, I can give this whole rant about like how the YouTube works because it's not great. They gave me like a vague reasoning as to why they've made the decision. Like so like you have like categories of the community guidelines, and they said like basically something in this category you did wrong, and I just assumed it was nudity because I had just uploaded this video on the Black Emanuel series, like the series of like Italian exploitation movies from the 70s, and I was like, when I made that video, I made a specific decision to not censor it because the nudity is sort of like part of that film series, and I figured like I never really had troubles with it in the past. So I put it, and it must have been that video. I still have never had a clear answer. So I wrote this whole thing defending the video, saying like, hey, if you reinstate the channel, I'll delete it. First thing I'll do, like so and so and so. And I sent this whole email. I'm like, okay, so now I'm just gonna relax. I'll check my inbox tomorrow later this week. And 20 minutes later, I got an email from YouTube saying like, thanks, but no. Basically, it was literally something like that. Like we've read your appeal, but we stand by our decision. And I was like, okay, well then that's it. And the thing that sucked a lot about it is that I didn't have a way to tell my audience because there was no channel. I couldn't post anything to tell them. Luckily, I have like a Facebook account where I have like quite some like follows. And when I posted there about like what happened, I think it was like the most interaction I ever had like on a post. Like, it was literally like thousands of reactions, hundreds of like comments and stuff. And people were also just like, I can't speak for people, but based on their reaction, they were like sort of like devastated by it,
I was
And
pissed.
yeah, it was frustrating. It was like people being like mad at because like around the time it would happen to more channels, like they just like rip the how do you say the rug underneath you, and you're helpless, And that's how I felt helpless. But I don't know. I feel like at some point, yeah, I was just like I accepted it. I got a lot of messages through like Facebook and Instagram and whatnot, like oh, do you have the videos? I have like backups of like literally like the open files to like my first videos. Like I've saved everything. So that's what you said. Like I started a Vimeo account to just have the videos online, like because people maybe wanted to see them still. And wait, what was the timeline you said? When did it come back? Because it was like 3 or 4 months later, right? What did you say?
April the 10th, 2020, you posted on
Yeah.
your
Okay.
Facebook
So it
account.
was.
You was
Yeah.
like, I don't know what's going on, but check this out. Like it just got destroyed.
Yeah. And I honestly didn't know what was going on because so I have this I made this Discord server for Horror Reviews a little while back. At that time it was sort of like recent still, but I always forget to check it. Like I made it, but I never active myself. But at some point I logged into the Discord, the Horror Reviews Discord server, and I saw like a message from some guy. He said like, "Hey, nice." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Your videos is back online." I'm like, "I don't think so. I mean, I didn't get like an email or anything." So I just went to like my browser, typed in like youtube.com/horrorreviews. Boom, everything was back. Like the subscribers, the views, all the views. Like it just as if it was never gone. And I was just like, holy fucking shit, you know? And that's probably when I posted, like, I don't know what's going on, but look at this. Like, can you guys try? Do you see this as well? And it's so funny because I told like two of my friends the exact same guys that came over for me with a six pack to like be like, oh, you're gonna be okay. I think that weekend they came over to like celebrate that I got the videos back online again. And one of the first things I did was delete the Emmanuel video just to play it safe. And and for the rest, I just ran with it. I never got an email explaining why. I never asked them why. I was just like, okay, nice. I won't upload any nudity anymore. But thank God it's back. It was, and the thing is also like in those it must have been like 4 months or so. At some point, I accepted it. Like it's done. Boom. I was struggling a little more with like, hey, I don't know about the future of the channel. It's like, okay, well, this is like a decision from above that decided for me. Like it's done with the channel. Like fine, fine, fine. But like a month later or so, I had the urge to like, oh man, I kind of do want to like make videos still. So I started this like PGHR, was like a PG horrible reviews channel. It's sort of like a, a scenario to like YouTube, like, okay, I'll come back, I'll make a new channel. And I did make like quite some videos on that channel, and then I got it back. So I just uploaded them to the main channel, if you will. And I was really heavy, like what I said, like at some point I was like, okay, well, it's gone. They made the decision for me. Maybe it's time to retire the horror reviews. But I guess I just wasn't ready. And then when it came back, I was like, oh yeah, wow, you know, like I did miss that feeling of like, you know, creating content and for an audience that obviously, well, apparently like very much enjoys it, you know?
I can only imagine. I can relate to that in a not as extreme way, but I'm a big fisherman. I like to fish. And it is so heartbreaking when you catch you a big fish and you're almost about to land it and then it breaks off right at the boat. So I can
Yeah,
only
yeah.
imagine the devastation of, like you just said earlier in this interview, it takes 25 hours on average to make a video. So, I mean, you had a lot of your life and time invested into that. So I
Yeah,
can only
yeah,
imagine. It had
yeah.
to
I
feel
think
like just wasted time once they
yeah,
took it from you.
exactly. You put it right. It definitely felt like it happened like yeah, like late 2019. I started in 2008, so it was like I think even when they rejected the appeal, I said something like boom, like 10 plus years down the drain, you know, like boom, fuck it. YouTube is like fuck this kid, you know,
Yeah.
fuck that he worked like years and years, put years of his love and effort in this channel. Boom, fuck that shit. And that's because that's how it felt, you know. And yeah, it's like you said, like um, yeah, think of something that you put a lot of time and effort and love in and imagine it being gone. And I don't want to be dramatic because at the end of the day, you could be like, dude, you're healthy. You live like, you have like a nice family and you live it and you're healthy, this and that. But, you know, like relatively speaking, it sucked.
Oh yeah, it's something you're passionate about. You just have it ripped
Yeah.
away from you, all your accomplishments. I get that. All right, so go
Mhm.
ahead and get you another Kleenex out for some happy tears
Oh,
now.
shit.
To piggyback off that, we're recording on May the 8th right now, but next week on May 12th will be your 13-year anniversary of being on YouTube. I think that's
Holy
very
shit.
impressive. I think that's an impressive feat. Can you just give me and the audience your thoughts on 13 years of what I'll say very successful content creation on YouTube?
That's crazy. 13 years. Dude, that's true. What did you say, May 12th or 13? What is it?
May 12th will be your 13-year
Yeah.
anniversary.
Oh, no. That's crazy. And I remember, I think for my because I went through like the archives the other day. I think it was for the fifth, the sixth, and the ninth year anniversary. I did like specific like videos, and well, very unfortunately, I will never be able to put something together in time for the 13th. But that's crazy. Why? Oh, I think I was just like sorting like some backup like external hard disks and like putting like all the everything like that I have like in order, and a lot of it was like horrible reviews related content. So I went through like a bunch of the videos because there was also like a lot of stuff that isn't online anymore, either unlisted or some like older update videos I did delete. So I went through some of the stuff, and yeah, I went through some of the old stuff, like the 2008 stuff, and it's kind of like endearing and cringy, and it's like it gives me a lot of feelings because obviously it's like at the time I had no idea that I would be doing this like 13 years later still, right? Um, I think the reason why I have been doing it for 30 years is just because I'm passionate about the stuff that I talk about. I don't have to force myself to make these videos. I kind of want to because I want to share my thoughts and feelings about like something I'm passionate about and like cinema in general. Um, like I said, the having an audience helps a lot because that's probably the biggest motivation, man. It's just so cool to have like people message you and be like, oh, because of you, I discovered this movie and it's now my favorite movie. And I've had people message me again, like I don't want to like sound like I'm important or anything because I do not consider myself important at all. I always tell people, like, dude, I'm just a guy like you. I just like movies. I just happen to decide to talk about it and put it on the internet. But I'm just like you. And people tell me like I get messages sometimes like, oh, and you were my inspiration to start like film school, and I'm now like in the fourth year, and like this and that. I'm like, that's so fucking cool, like how, like I said, like when I was watching those old videos, and I was like 2021 when I started. I had no idea that I would be able to like mean something for other people, and then in a way that connects to what I'm passionate about, like film and cinema. So 13 years, it's crazy, and I know people like, and I know that I'm not a traditional YouTuber, if you will, in the sense that I can go on like fucking like a 4 or 5 month break, not even intentionally, but I just don't have the time or the energy to make new videos. But then I come back and I'm like, boom, here, Disturbing Movies Part 26. And people are like, dude, yeah, cool. They're like, yeah, you can just upload when you can, and that's so like, I don't know, that means a lot. And it makes it easier for me to not feel the pressure to constantly upload. Because if you look at the amount of videos I made over 13 years, for some people that would be like what, like 3 or 4 years worth of content, like if you have like a regular schedule. But I just do it like at my pace, and then for 13 years, that is long though. That's crazy. But yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely the people watching that keep me going after 13 years. Pretty crazy.
Wow, yeah, and like you said, I mean, heck, I'm in Florida. You're in the Netherlands. We're connected
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now
and we're
because of.
talking.
But not to, just no, we haven't had the reach that you have yet. But we've gotten some emails from some friends from Scotland, the UK. Like they've messaged us or emailed us, and it means a lot that people, we're reaching people all across the world. So I mean, keep
Right?
up what you're doing.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, exactly. But then what I mean. Like, if people like appreciate something you're doing, and you just consider yourself like just an everyday guy that's like just passionate about it and likes to speak out. The same thing with what you guys do, and not to belittle you, saying that you're like a little guy, but you started this podcast, I presume, because like yeah, like we're passionate about this stuff. We want to talk about it. And there's an audience out there, people that like the stuff, and if they can listen and they find out about like new stuff, new insight, you guys have cool guests online, like people will listen to that. They're like you ask like good questions. That's cool, man. It's great to share that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the reason, not that I don't even know if you care or not, but the reason I wanted to start my own podcast was
Of
because
course.
I used to be a mailman. And I was in my mail case or my car for between 6 to like 10 hours a day, and I just wanted to have something to listen to because I really, honestly, just could not find a podcast that I like outside of one. But I'm sure you've heard of Dead Meat. He's huge on YouTube, but
Yeah.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
he's more of a YouTube guy. I mean, him and his fiance
Yeah,
do
yeah,
a
yeah.
podcast, but they, I just wanted something to help feed my. I think it's Benjamin Franklin who said the key to invention is necessity or something like that. Uh, so
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
feel like if I need something, just make it myself. So here we are.
Yeah,
Uh, just a
yeah,
fun,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Uh-huh.
just a fun question.
I
But
feel, I feel that. Uh-huh. Oh yeah, of course.
we're getting ready
Sorry.
to wrap things up pretty soon. Just a fun question. What are some horror or non-horror films that have yet to come out that you're excited to see? With COVID, so many big time films are delayed, such as Spiral, Conjuring 3, the new Halloween Kills movie. Is there, or what are you itching to go see this year, or anything, honestly?
That's a good one. That's
I,
actually a good one because
I want to see all three of those badly.
well, hey, now that you bring them up, like yeah, like so. I think it was even just like maybe like a couple of weeks ago that I found out that there was a new Saw movie coming. That's Spiral is a new Saw one, right? And even though I have my opinions on the series. The Spiral I'll definitely check out. The Conjuring I think is a great franchise. Even stuff that gets shit on, like wasn't the Nun, like everybody hated one. I thought was pretty cool, like going in not expecting anything and getting like a cool like Eastern European setting and like sort of like a little spooky setting, which I thought it was fine. But mostly just the actual Conjuring movies, they're great. The thing is, I don't really know what's coming out. Like, I haven't really been paying too much attention, and between the stuff that I want to watch for my channel and the stuff that I have in my physical collection that I haven't seen yet, and my letterbox watch list, which is like just a ridiculous dumpster fuck of like everything that I come across, and like there's like 1,300 or like 1,500 like titles on that watch list, and sometimes I just go through it and like because I do like very consciously add movies to that list because it's like, oh, this looks interesting. Um, I don't know what's coming out because there's so much I want to see regardless that's been made. What's the last one you said? Like a new Halloween?
Yeah, the Halloween
Because
Kills, the sequel to the 2018.
holy
The
shit.
2018 was the sequel to the 78. It was a new timeline, basically.
Oh yeah. With Jamie Lee Curtis, right?
Yep.
Or is it no?
And it had Jamie Lee Curtis. Judy Greer was her daughter.
Okay. Hmm. I like her. I've not seen that one. Was it good?
I liked it. I mean, Halloween fans, they're really diehard. So, the
Yeah,
first
but
one will
yeah,
never
exactly.
be.
No, exactly. And well, like I don't want to bring in like my controversial opinions, but I'm not even per se a super big fan of the original Halloween. I'll respect it for everything it did for the genre, and John Carpenter is a very talented filmmaker. But I'll watch, and it's not about like a versus thing, but I'll watch Friday the 13th original over Halloween any day. But that's just me. But this new Halloween, then in a way is Halloween 3. If it's a sequel to what is supposed to be a sequel to the original, like in that new timeline, you probably have like 10 timelines going on, like in the Halloween franchise right now.
Yeah. So
It's
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah,
But
because
I like the 2018 version. It was good.
I should check it out. I mean, I think the last ones I've seen were the Rob Zombie ones, and well,
Hmm.
we've talked about it before. I'm not a big fan of those. I did like the video. That video actually got quite a lot of negative reactions. The video they did about the films of Rob Zombie, but as you probably know as well, like he does have like a rather dedicated fan base, I guess,
Very
and they're just
dedicated.
like, and I feel like I haven't seen the video in a while, but I feel like in that Rob Zombie video that I did, that I do a pretty good job of explaining why I feel the way I do about these films. But some of them are like, yeah, you're just a fucking day, you just don't get it, isn't that? Like, I don't know. I feel like I just spent like fucking 2 videos of 25 minutes explaining why, but like sometimes it's hard to argue with, like you say, like diehard fans.
Yeah, and I remember you saying that you were a bigger fan of Jason and Freddy because Michael's kind of just standing here, standing there. In the 2018 sequel, you get probably the best portrayal of Michael Myers ever to
Oh,
me.
really?
Yeah,
Okay, that's
he's a lot more Jason-esque, I guess you could say, but he's
okay.
still got that Michael Myers walk to him and the
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
to
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
he's not just standing around all the time. I agree with you on
Yeah,
that.
like hiding behind bushes and stuff.
uh,
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, maybe I should check that one out then. Uh-huh.
I would recommend it personally. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. Just want to wrap this interview up with your thoughts and ideas of the future of your channel, Horrible Reviews. Tell our listeners and subscribers what to expect in the future and where they can follow you on social medias.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for giving me that opportunity. Main channel obviously is youtube.com/horrible reviews. Just write it how you write it, obviously. Follow me there. Like I'm also like on Facebook, Instagram. I think the Instagram has a horrible review. Just Google horrible reviews and you'll find the socials. Um,
Yeah.
Subscribe to the channel because I am now working on 2 videos simultaneously. I can't talk about the far ahead future from horror reviews for horror reviews. I'm finishing both part 30 of my most disturbing movies series, and after that I have a really big thing coming up, which I'm really excited about. It's like a huge project. It includes a lot of fellow content creators from YouTube. It's going to be like sort of like a collab project. I'm super excited about it. It's a hell of a lot of work, way more than I anticipated, and I already thought it was going to be a lot of work. Um, so even if you aren't familiar with the channel and you subscribe and it takes a little while before new content is coming out, it's because I'm working on some big things. And not to overhype things, but the big project I started working on it like back in February, and I want to put it out, and I would probably consider it as sort of like my magnum opus. So I'm super excited about that, and I don't want to give away too much, but please be a little patient, and hopefully that waiting will pay off.
Oh, absolutely. I'm super excited. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. This has really been an honor. I think I probably told you that way too many times, messaging you how excited I was.
You can tell me one more time.
Okay. You've always been one of my favorite YouTubers because of your unique content, your hilarious personality, and of course your "What's Up, Gangsters" intros. I wish you continue success, and we'd love to have you back on in the future, either for a film review if you'd want to do one of those with us, or just another interview.
Dude, of course. I mean, like, yeah, for sure. Like, I'd love to have just like thank you so much for all the kind words, of course, and for having me. Yeah, I consider myself a friend of the channel right now. So, like, if you ever don't have a slot to fill in with like the A-listers, you can always come with me. And like I said, like this is fun talking about the channel and stuff, but uh, just have me over and let's talk about movies. Let's talk about reviews and have it like a conversation going on. Like, I'd love to have that sometime in the future, of course, man.
Awesome. Is there any final thoughts before we end this call, my man?
Well, no, I just hope everybody is listening had a fun time. Hopefully, I didn't talk too much. Hopefully, I made a little bit of sense because I tend to just like go on and on and on about it. But yeah, no, mostly, Nico, I want to thank you and the podcast for giving me the opportunity to, like have a little platform to talk about just like a guy that makes videos on YouTube, like awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate it.